Hello everyone, it's Nick here and welcome back to the channel. As I say, it is Nick. I don't know who else you was expecting. One day I might surprise you and it might be Morgan Freeman sitting here, or Johnny Depp, or someone a bit more interesting maybe. But it's the 2-week roundup, which I'm sure you knew by reading the title, where we try and rank in order the 6 games I reviewed over that period and see what was best, what was not quite so good. It's a way of splitting it up really, so it isn't a channel just of game review after game review after game review. Try and keep it a bit human, try and get a bit of interaction, a bit of forum. You tell me bits about the games and your experiences and we share, we all learn going forward. So, before we come to the top 6, of course, what pinball reviews have we looked at this time? Well, we've been going through Zen Pinball 2 tables as we wait for Season 5 of the Pinball Arcade to be released on PlayStation 3, which I've been told it's, well, round about now, October, so I'm keeping my eye on it. But we've been looking at the core collection in Zen Pinball 2. First table we looked at this time round was Rome. Published by Zen Studios in 2014. It's a recreation of some of the original tables that come out that didn't quite feature, I don't think, on PlayStation 3. Fantastic colour scheme on this, lovely reds and golds, it looks magnificent. Graphically it's the best table in my opinion of the 4 tables on offer. Playability is a little bit tricky, but there's some great modes there. One where you have to use catapults to destroy a ship on one side, but it's all based around war and Roman mythology. There's a mode where you have to change the weight of the scales. There's 2 waterfall ramps. The one on the right's a little bit evil. If you don't hit the ball quite hard enough, it'll come right down in the centre of the flippers. So if that happens, you've already got to get ready quickly to nudge it to get things back going your way. So that was Rome. Second table we looked at the collection, so table 3 out of 4 of those is was BioLab. Now this is a table I found the most tricky. It's essentially set in a laboratory with a mad scientist and he's doing some crazy DNA experiments, trying to create new sort of creatures. Some interesting mini games on this one, quite a few of them involving a maze guiding a ball around that to an exit point. But by hitting the ramps at the right time and doing what you should do within certain time criteria, you have to build your alien, and then once he's complete you get mega super points. Multi-ball in this one, as you expect from all the other tables. Skill shot as well by hitting the ball at the right angle, or the right power I should say, across a vial, but I just can't get the hang of this one. I go back to it several times. It isn't bad per se, but it's not one that I'll go to a lot because I've got so many other pinball tables downloaded. So, you know, I might not play this one for years in fact. But yeah, so of the 4, that is my least favourite. Next time round we'll be coming to Pasha, and that'll be the last of the core collection. So yeah, what's the main games we looked at this time then? In 6th place, I'm not sure I've been too cruel with this one, but in 6th place I put Family Feud on the Game Boy Advance, published by Global Star in 2006. Based on the TV show known as Family Feud in the USA, or Family Fortunes in the UK, but works the same. The TV format, 100 people are surveyed before the show and 2 families compete against each other. Various questions of the survey, like name something you'd find in a western, and you say like cowboy or horse, and the idea is to get all of them without getting 3 wrong answers. If you do, then the family obviously get a chance to steal. Interesting viewing on TV. The computer game is a bit dull and long-winded. The families they give you, although you can design your own family should you want to, I don't know why you want to do this, but the set families do look pretty strange. They don't look related to each other at all. It's one of those games where you probably only play it 2 or 3 times. The review itself, because it was like a review stroke gameplay as I tend to do, they're never a straight review, lasted about half an hour to get through it, so could keep you occupied for a little bit. But it's just plain average in my opinion, and also the typing mechanism, it's a timer, that's a bit flawed also. In 5th place on the Commodore Amiga is Space Gun, published by Ocean in 1992. Now I reviewed this game on the ZX Spectrum a few weeks back, although it was okay. The Spectrum 128K this was, it attempted a few things. It did suffer a bit from bad loading times. Now the Commodore Amiga shouldn't really have these similar problems, but for some reason it does. You don't have to go too far through a set of doors and then it loads another chunk, and the loading times are pretty hefty, which breaks up the flow of the game. Based on an arcade cabinet, where lots of aliens jumping all over the place. It's a little bit repetitive, but if the game had any sort of like speed to it, which I'm sure the arcade game does, then because the flow's not broken up, it's thoughtless, mindless shooting. Because the Amiga version's only sporadic shooting and then a big gap while you're waiting, yeah, the loading time is as much as what you're playing, and it's not a fun game. The ideas are there, Ocean in 1992, but could have been a lot better. The aliens are a bit smaller than the Spectrum version, which gives you more scenery to play with. It's 1 or 2 players, but even then, not particularly good. These first-person shooters like Operation Wharf and the like, playing it on the joystick or the mouse, you're really crying out for a light gun to make any sense of it. And in 4th place, a public domain game, so I couldn't really mark this as harshly as I would a commercial release. It's Boulder Dash 2 by a chap called Laser in 1993. I don't think this is the original one that he released. I think someone else has remixed it and reprogrammed it again. But what is there? The graphics are quite nice. It's a Boulder Dash clone rather than any licensed Boulder Dash game. If Boulder Dash, the original, come out on the Amiga, that must have been public domain as well, because I haven't come across it. I don't think it was a commercial release. But if you play games like Emerald Mine or Diamond Mine, you know essentially what to do. You've got to collect all the diamonds or jewels without being crushed by falling rocks when you cut underneath them. Pretty basic gameplay. This isn't going to win any awards, but it's from 1993, and for one person working on their own, it's an accurate representation of the game. So that's the only reason why I put it above Space Gun, where there's quite a few more people working on that one, so it should have been a bit better. So in 6th place was Family Feud on the Game Boy Advance by Global Star in 2006. 5th place is Space Gun by Ocean in 1992. And in 4th place, Boulder Dash 2 by Laser in 1993. So that leaves us looking at the top 3 then, the main games I was most impressed with. 2 Spectrum ones and 1 PlayStation one. Now in 3rd place, didn't know where to put this 2nd or 3rd, but I think 3rd place is reasonable, was a game called Nomad, again published by Ocean, but in the 80s this time, 1985. It's a maze game. You control an automated vehicle called a Nomad, and you must destroy some despot or some bad person, but you can only do this by circumnavigating this great maze, and graphically it looks brilliant for the time, 85. It's nice and colourful, there's no real colour bleed. Bit of problem solving in this, you have to hit various switches to open magnetic gateways to aid your progress, but in the end of the day it's just running around and shooting stuff. The ship has a bit of inertia, which you have to get used to, but that's been well programmed as well, and it's a good effort, I can forgive it for that. Sometimes it makes it a bit awkward to control the ship, but that's a part of the skill factor really. So that was Nomad by Ocean. In 2nd place, very tight call, but I think as in terms of classic games, this one deserves to go ahead of it, because it is a classic for me, although not very well known game. It's ZZOON, spelt with 2 Z's, on the ZX Spectrum again by Imagine Software in 1983. So a very early one, and been right down into my favourite era of computer gaming, the 8-bit era, the early 8-bit era, and that's for me is where the most invention was and the best games come from, with a balance of graphics and gameplay. ZZOON, I don't know why it's called ZZOON this, but essentially it's over 3 stages, which I managed to do 2 on the review. One, you have to guide refugees from one side of the screen to the other without being destroyed or bombed by the enemy. So don't look at it in real terms, or you'll drive yourself crazy when the refugees get blown up. It's just fun, it's just a graphical game from 83, it's not pretending to be anything it isn't, it's not being a political statement or anything like that. You're guiding stickmen from one side to another, and in your ship you have to fire either missiles or bullets or fire to save your refugees so they get safe passage from one side to the other. If you take it for what it's worth, a comical look at a joke game, I mean, then it's fine. It's not saying, as I say, not saying to say anything political. 1983, a good fun classic game controlling, well, guiding the stickmen. A little bit reminded me of the modern day Lemmings when they get blown up at the end. So yeah, I don't know if that was influenced by that at all. And the last game then, in 1st place. Now I had heaps of fun playing this one. So it's not a surprise to a lot of people who've watched all the videos that have got this in 1st place. It's the most modern one, well, it's the 2nd most modern one actually. Family Feud was the newest one. But this was Downhill, or No Fear, Downhill Mountain. Let's start again. No Fear, Downhill Mountain Biking. Why do they have such long names? Published by Codemasters in 1999. The great Codemasters in on the PlayStation 1. Basically, it's a racing game, but the first game I've ever played where you're actually on a bike, apart from Milk Race on the Spectrum. It doesn't quite play like this. But over different stages you must compete against competitors. For some reason the computer kept drawing me against girls. But going through like exotic locations like Yorkshire and Morocco and San Francisco, you must race your opponent and doing various stunts and jumps and get to the finish line before them. A bit of rubber band in this, which always makes it a bit interesting, but this is an absolutely fantastic game. It's a game I will be going back to more and more, maybe not on the channel's review, but in my own spare time. Codemasters are the king of these sort of games, really, but really brilliant, really well done, and the physics of the bike makes you feel like you're in control of it. So in third place was Nomad on the ZX Spectrum, published by Ocean in 1985. Second was ZZOON by Imagine Software in 83. And top of the pack this time round was Downhill Mountain Biking by Codemasters in 1999. You might have noticed as well, we're having a look back on the old Spectrum games I reviewed first of all when I started the channel, or the channel rebooted about 3 years ago. I didn't have a proper microphone then, and I was still finding my own style, so I've isolated 17 games, which you probably know from watching other videos, that I plan to redo. So they'll be going up once every Tuesday. So yeah, thanks for watching the channel as always appreciated. Until next time, have a great weekend and a very warm goodbye.
Goodbye.